Welcome back to Programming TV. Today I actually want to talk through a week of my own programming. And I haven't done this for a little bit, but I'm at the place where I think my programming is frankly a little bit more interesting than it was for a while. Whereas going off of some of the competitions I did through summer and fall, I guess this year it would have been Mech-On Rush and Crash Crucible. I took some time off and truly probably took the longest off season I have, just like not really training at all for maybe ever, like 2 to 3 weeks, really not doing anything. Can't really remember ever in my entire life going longer than, a week without training. So I think it was necessary, and I wasn't really feeling the urge to go back to training, which I think was a sign that I really needed that. So that being said, took the time off, slowly worked my way back into it, and frankly motivation wasn't super high, which is also something that's really rare for me to deal with. So again, I think those were all signs that I was, the timing of that off season was correct, and eventually started getting back into it. Basically, I was like, if I want to be competitive in the sport of CrossFit and continue to compete and make that worthwhile and make that a good representation of who I am as a coach and my brand, then it's like I need to do the best I can. And if I want to do that, I have to get stronger. So that's sort of the route I went down. And, one of the things that is going to be required as an older athlete is assessing like, hey, what have I done? And on the flip side of that, what have I not done? And on that side of things, it's like that's where you're going to make the bang for your buck, is if you can do things that you haven't done before. If you're willing to do things that you haven't tried before, that is where your biggest opportunities are going to lie. So 2 things that I have done a lot in the past is like I've focused on trying to eat as much as I can and trying to get as much strength work as I can. And what I'm doing differently this time is the fact that I'm tracking very closely what I'm eating, and I'm pushing that number up in a way that's been very systematic over the last better part of a year, several months. And now I'm at a place where I'm eating a lot very consistently, and it's allowing me to sustain a lot higher of a body weight and put on some pounds that I haven't done before, and in a way that I haven't done before, and just frankly like way bigger than I have been in the past. And being okay with some of the other things suffering, and frankly almost everything else suffering, in the name of me getting stronger, because that's what's necessary. So basically pulling almost everything out to a very low, I don't even want to call it maintenance volume, just because I kind of pulled it all out just to work on my strength. And while I wouldn't recommend that for most athletes, a place in my training age and the place in my career where, like I said, if I want to continue to be competitive, I have to find a way to continue to bump those numbers up. So good news is strength is feeling very good, feeling really, from a nervous system perspective, joint perspective, really kind of refreshed and ready to get back after more intensive training. Not exactly sure what my season's going to look like for 2025, but I'm ready to get back into it. Monday, we're going to be starting with a moderate sports EMOM. So basically whatever skills I feel like I haven't touched for a little bit, or that I just qualities I want to maintain. It's pretty subjective, to be honest, and just sort of by feel. Things that I'm like, yeah, I should probably do that. In this case, I haven't been inverted much recently, so I did some handstand holds. I did a pegboard because I didn't want to really do any kipping, but I did want to prep some of my pulling musculature, and I also need to be tolerant of GHDs, which I'm really not right now, so I put all those together. Yeah, and then also I added overhead walking lunge because I'm, again, trying to continue to maintain some of my overhead positioning for things like snatches, even though I'm not doing full snatches in this session. So then, just based on my needs, I know that I need to be doing, and I should be doing more overhead squat mobility, just because that's a good shotgun for like everything in the body, essentially. And then also like shoulder packing. So scapular packing, shoulder packing, thinking about, depressing that shoulder blade. And that's just a result of me having that shoulder wanting to elevate as a result of me having torn my labrum on that shoulder. So all good things for me to be doing. And it's also just, frankly, an opportunity for me to catch up with the aerobic system and make sure that I'm feeling good and fresh for this next part. So this is the progression that I did a whole foundational strength cycle before this for my squat in particular, trying to drive out front squat because that's probably my worst lift in all of my lifts. So it's obviously going to be one that I'm working on the most, and it's also put right on the front end of this priority day. So there you have it. Makes sense. Yeah, this is a progression. I said that I did the progression before. That was setting me up well to do this progression right here, which is via Kyle Ruth, who I had on the podcast, and we talked about this. And, I basically was asking for free advice, and he gave it to me, so I took it. We're using the reverse band squats here, and he actually had flipped it around and said back squat for the reverse bands and the front squats for the Wendler program, but I flipped it around just because my front squat really just needs development, especially on this top end side of things. So that's why I flipped it around. And even though I just didn't want to get the Wendler volume out of control Wendler volume out of control on this day, so I only did 3x3 to 85%, which is challenging, but not above RPE 8. And then just some back rack step ups. My knees weren't super happy at the end of this session, so that's kind of actually why I ended up modifying it a bit. I'm actually halfway through this week right now, so it'll be good for me to be able to give a little bit of insights as I walk through this. And then we got Tuesday, we got a ski buy-in here, essentially just some I guess it's zone work, but it's pretty short. But I have it on the bookends, so at the front and tail end of this session. And then I'm actually going to be going into some skill development work, some rope climbs from seated where you can use your legs after you stand up, some handstand walk forward to backward type things, legless pegboard, just some fun stuff that I want to continue to develop some of the skills. And then the progression I wanted to work on was, let me throw that in first here, was this other progression that me and Kyle talked about. I wanted to run it and see how things went. In this case, I'm up to 7 sets of this. So I'm going every 90 seconds, doing basically a one in the tank of strict handstand push-ups. And I realized pretty quickly that if I just write it as that, I will go in a crazy number of reps for set number 1, and then they'll back off really quickly. So just capping myself at 20 reps on that first set. And then they'll tail off naturally pretty quickly after that. And then that zone bookends that I mentioned before back on the skier. And then the actual kind of stress, obviously some of that's stress, but the more metabolic side of things that I wanted to take on, I wanted to do some pressing and pulling work, and I wanted to at least have some ring muscle up. And then I also considered doing some strength or, hinging strength endurance type work. So I ended up coming up with this. I'm going to do an EMOM until RPE 9. On the odd minutes, I'm going to be doing 5 clean jerks at 205. On the even minutes, I'm going to be doing 7. Well, it says I don't want max there. That's lingering from the previous week. 5 clean jerks, 205, 7 ring muscle ups. Yeah, alternating minutes, so back and forth. I think I made it 10 minutes. Actually, I know I made it 10 minutes. Last day here before I get a low day. Box jump step down from seated. 2 sets of 2 up to 40 inches. We're going to go then dead stop deadlifts. With these dead stop deadlifts, I'm going to have 1 inch deficits, just basically standing on a stall mat to create a little bit of lift, because the off the floor is always the most challenging part for me. And I made it up to 495. This felt really, really good. Definitely the best 495 has ever moved. Really quick. Really be happy with that, considering I've been putting a lot of work into the top end strength things. So, yeah. Then we got sports sets. Sports sets, I should do a whole episode on them. They're fantastic. I love them. I'm also giving them to Sam Hagen at the moment. And while we're actually following the same format, I'm just tweaking some of the movement selection for him. And then I'm actually doing it in my own programming the following week. It's nice when you have a client and you take the time to write a really well thought out thing, and you just kind of throw it to yourself, and it works well. And just adjust a few of the movements to make sure it makes sense in your week. So a lot of work there. I think that was including rest, close to, I want to say 40 or 45 minutes. You were there 6 to 7 minutes each time I was working. So yeah, it would have been right around 40. And then I ended out with just some easy aerobic work. Again, just a little bit of additional aerobic stress and making sure that, I'm kind of serves as a cool down as well as a little bit of additional aerobic stretch. Then I often will jump into class on recovery days, just because it's really easy to jump in and you're not really coaching necessarily. So the same way you would in snatches and, box jump overs, it's not the same level as that. We actually have more of a workout to this Thursday than we normally have, but I will treat this as a recovery, and that way it allows me to actually coach and engage in class as well. Friday, the class is doing this workout right here, and let me add in the other part as well. It's actually a bench work, and that's why I want to test it. So it's the bench works axe to grind 4 times with 12-minute cap, 60 GHDs, 45 dumbbell lunges. I know it's an odd number, it bothers me too, but it'll be all right. 50 a hand, and then 30 snatches at 95 and 15 ring muscle ups. So that is our benchmark. I want to make sure that I test benchmark since I'm an owner at our gym. And then the actual class was doing power cleans because we're going to be building to a power clean max in, I believe, 2 weeks from now. So I'm just going to switch that out for power snatches. Same thing, just power snatches. You have 7 minutes to build to your power snatch weight that you want to use, and then a 12-minute EMOM of 1 power snatch on the minute. And then after that, because I already have some of the things I want that were in with the skeleton, I'm just going to add this as, this is going to technically be my secondary strength for my squatting, because I'm going to also have squatting tomorrow in the name game session. So just some things to sort of support the squat strength. Glute ham raises, a banded hip thrust, and a stagger stance RDO. All things to keep knees and hips strong and healthy. And then we got the name game on Saturday. This one is Matchstick. Matchstick is 2 events. First one is from 0 to 10 minutes, 1 mile air bike. In the remaining time, you're going to find a max clean, hang clean, and jerk. Again, it's a little bit of fatigue, but certainly not a lot. And then at the 10-minute mark, you're going to go 27 deadlifts, 255, 175, 21/15 calories on the air bike, 15 lateral burpees over the bar, 9 clean and jerks at 255/175. So, yeah, really comes down to that last 9 reps. What is that going to look like for people? It's going to be a big separator there. So, pretty cool workout. It's actually one that we did in Lumber Capital programming a while ago, but we didn't have the first part, and the second part was lighter, 225. And it was really good, and I liked it a lot. So it ended up being a name game workout, just a little bit heavier. So there you have it. Is a week for my programming. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, stay the course.